Reading card. I am here in the garden tonight and I cannot believe that we are in a season of like dying already. Look at my sunflowers. I mean, they're full of seeds, and I've been feeding some to the chickens, and as I've noticed the birds eating them, and so then I'm like, man. My plan was originally growing sunflowers to actually collect and harvest the seeds. If anybody knows like a great way to get the meat out of the seed, because we make sun butter, and I love, like, we buy a ton of sunflower seeds, but just the meat. So I'm not exactly sure how to harvest it, and like I said, we've just been giving it to the chickens. So also some of our peas are still doing really well, but some of them are, the ones that are more in sun for longer are starting to die back. They're just looking a little more sad. The ones over here, these are the most shaded, and I think they're doing the best. These couple plants. So it's weird, like, we're what, July 7th or something like that? But it just feels too early because, like, my pumpkins don't even feel like they've started, which I think I need to replant some of the seeds. I think they're stunted. They're just still only this big. And the ones that I volunteered from last year, the ones that I ended up leaving because they were out of the way, they were in a different patch that I made this year. Those ones are like going wild. And so I don't think the ones that I started are going to be successful, which is really a bummer. And my husband and I were just talking about, like, if it's too late to replant them, I might have to strategically pick a couple of varieties that I hope will be mature before it freezes, which I probably should have started sooner, and I just kept hoping that the ones I planted would grow, and they haven't. So yeah, the thing on my heart today and tonight is I just finished Ann Voskamps' book, The Broken Way, and made an egg omelet, or a pocket omelet, the other day, and it just got my thoughts spinning on, like, I've been really reflecting on, like, the brokenness, like leaning into the brokenness and embracing the broken and living fully in it. And so I think that to me is like our brokenness, our greatest brokenness is our greatest strength if we allow God to use it. Total sidetrack from a very serious thing here. Okay. I thought that I had a praying mantis cocoon on my raspberry patch, and the raspberries, when I was pruning and like taking care of them, I broke the cocoon. And I had another one on some planters that I gave away, and I did not take it off the planters, and so I thought, bummer, like, I've given up my praying mantises for the year. But I just found another cocoon I want to show you. You see it right there. So hundreds of babies will come out of that pretty soon. So I will keep an eye on that and share that with you guys, because that's really exciting. They need a really long time in the cocoon, and they, I think, hatch in July. Like, so I'm going to keep an eye on that. That's really exciting. Okay, so leaning into the broken. I love in Ann's book what she talks about, like, Jesus is in the broken, and like, if we want to find Jesus, then we have to go to the broken. And Jesus was always in the broken. And I just think, like, my own story in my own life, like I hid from the broken for so long. Like I ran really hard from the things that were broken in my life and that felt unfixable. And by the end of her book, she uses this, like, I'm not afraid of being cut. I'm not afraid of the pain, of the hurt, of the blood. Like, I'm not afraid of the broken. And I think that's just so healing when we finally, I think that's the only way to get past is through, and that's what I've been learning for the last 3 years, is the only way for the pain to not be so scary is to face it. And that is really scary. But when we try and avoid it or hide from it or pretend it doesn't hurt as bad as it does, then it has more power. And to take its power, we have to lean in. And that feels really scary. And in my own story as well, is like, I never understood like how God can use, like, how he can turn everything for good. And I just thought, like, that is, no, like, the things that have happened, the bad in my life, like, there's no good in that. And I've heard it in a book that said, it's the thing that happened to you is not good. It will never be good. That's okay to say that. But God can use it, like the result of it, for good. Which I feel like it did. It changed my mindset on, like, being able to say the thing that happened was bad. And if I surrender, God can use it for good. And I just thought, I was listening to another book. I listen to a lot of books. And he talks about, like, this sad story about this girl whose engagement got broken off, and she felt led to give her engagement ring to the church. And then there was this other couple who had repented of sin and, like, was ready to like get married, and they had, like, moved out of living together and to do this the right way. And, like, but every time he went to go buy a ring, he had, like, a financial emergency and couldn't purchase one. And so the story was just that the ring was, like, the pastor knew exactly, like, who the ring was going to go to. Like, it was just so clear. And he said something along the lines of, like, your obedience can be someone else's miracle. And I just think in our pain, like, our pain can be someone else's miracle. Like, working through our stuff and facing our stuff can be someone else's miracle. And I think that's how God uses it for good, is, like, how everything can be used for good is not that the thing that happened will ever be good. That thing was bad. But it can be turned into a miracle. And I think the exponential growth of that too is, like, if one person leans into their pain and tells their story, in result, like, that's going to change many people's lives, not just one. Like, I encourage you, like, in this time of death in the garden and surrender and pain, that it's okay to hurt, and that there's healing. And the healing comes when we face the hurt, and when it's okay if it's big and scary. We don't have to pretend it's not. And that I think God honors that and multiplies that for good. So yeah, I hope also, like, side note, that this is the time to start planting a fall garden. We're in zone 6, and I will be planting seeds indoors this week because it is so, like, this is the hottest part of the year, so it doesn't make sense to be planting fall crops outdoors right now because they want the cold. But they will be semi-established by the time it cools off, and then they will continue to establish before it freezes. Well, we'll see. It depends. We could actually get a harvest before it freezes. That would be the goal, is to get the harvest, and then or things that we can leave in the ground like carrots, and I just got that conference I was telling you about. It was awesome. I'm walking across cars right now. Okay. Oh, this is what happens when you got a small space. Okay. Oh, down goes a wheelbarrow. Okay. Focus. Yeah, so she was saying how some crops you can actually like leave in the ground, and then they will come back when they're ready in the spring and continue to grow. So they won't die, they'll just they won't continue to grow when it's super duper cold, but they will as soon as they can in the spring when it's a little bit warm enough. So one of the things she mentioned was kale. So if the kale is established, it can survive like hard freezes. It will not like continue to grow, but you could pick off of it without having to worry about how you're going to store it. So that's really exciting. So that's the kind of stuff I do want to try this year. In addition, we have the geothermal greenhouse, which we're planning to transition to a window greenhouse. That should help. So hopefully we will be getting true like soft greens like all winter. But then some of the other things, like I said, I want to try to get a harvest before it freezes. And then we'll also, I want to experiment with leaving some stuff in the ground, like leaving some carrots in the ground, and just letting them come back in the spring when they're ready, stuff like that. So anyways, I think that's all the news clip. I'll try and join you in on what I end up planting for the fall garden. One sneak peek here. I think I showed you when I put in this sharing garden that the plants were in shock and they weren't doing so well. But here it is. I'm impressed with how well these pumpkins transplanted. The sunflowers popped back, the tomatoes are doing amazing, the peppers. Some things did die, but there was a moment where I thought everything was gonna die. But I am so, just so happy with the things that are growing out here right now. So, just a, exciting thing to have in our neighborhood. So, thanks for hanging out, and we'll talk to you next time.